want to thank everybody for joining us here today for the LiveTiles LMS365 Microsoft Teams, your one-stop learning and productivity shop webinar. My name is John Wesley. I am one of your co-hosts today. I'm a senior solutions specialist at LiveTiles, and I'm joined by my good friend Todd Smith. Todd, say hello to the people.
Hi, everyone.
And Todd is a business manager, and he'll be talking to us a little bit more about LMS365 and bringing learning into your Microsoft Teams environment.
Yep.
So today we're going to go through a little bit at a high level of Microsoft Teams, right? What is it now? What can it be? We're going to talk a little bit. Todd's actually going to talk and show a little bit about custom learning modules and how those kind of form fit into Teams and support your overall team productivity. And then I'll be taking you through some other aspects of accelerating employee productivity in Teams. And at the end, we're just going to wrap up with some Q&A. So if you've got questions, please feel free to put them into the question and answer panel down, or I think now it's at the top of Teams, and we'll try to cover as many of those questions as we can at the end. So at the top, Microsoft Teams, right? By now, everybody has got to be very familiar with it, right? It's a very intuitive, easy to use interface, but it's so much more than just a collaboration or a communication platform, right? From sharing documents to chatting, phone calls, meetings, even responding to emails, things of that. There's so much that can be done in Teams, and Microsoft has really gone all in on kind of making Teams the modern day workplace for many organizations. And dozens of new features are being added every month and quarter. And at the end of the day, Teams is really looking to leverage and maximize your existing Microsoft investment. And just its overall capabilities, it's pretty clear that it's more than just a tool in the Microsoft tool belt. It's really a platform that it is the tool belt is where it's going. And because it's part of O365 and the recent, COVID culture, I guess, easy to see why there are in excess of 75 million daily users. So we know this chat-based collaboration is here to stay, and Teams really does a great job harnessing this and bringing it together to really connect everything you do in your current M365 environment into a single place, and the feedback's been outstanding. People love Teams. They're trying to figure out how they worked before Teams was there. And so for talking about the modern digital workplace, Todd, maybe this is a good place to let you kind of jump in and take us through how the digital workplace is kind of framed in your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, John, very much. One of the things I want to do and talk about is, and actually, as we look at the modern digital workplace, I want to take everybody back to something that John pointed out for just half a second here. And when John was talking about that number, that 75 million daily users, I was recently working on something here. That number was 20% lower back in March of this year, and it jumped in just 6 weeks when COVID hit. And we suddenly realized the value of what this was, and suddenly businesses said, we need this and we have to have it. And suddenly businesses overnight saw the value of this because everybody was forced to work from home. But what's interesting is that number jumped up there and then has remained static. Everybody's continuing to use it, and now businesses are trying to figure out how to leverage it even more. See, we look at the modern digital workplace and we look at how many people are using Office 365. We're all familiar with these tools. And what we think about when we look at the tools here and we see things like We see things like SharePoint. We see things like Outlook. We see things like Forms, Stream. We see things like Yammer. We see things all like Teams and all of this, and we see how all of these things all integrate in together, and then they're all based on this foundation here, the Azure template right here, the Azure Active Directory, that it's all sitting on top of this. And so we try and build a learning platform to foster a learning culture that uses the existing content or create new content and harness big data, leveraging things like Power BI within that, all of making use of the Microsoft ecosystem with the native APIs and the Power Platform that's already existing within here. And so that's what LMS365 is attempting to do, is take that modern digital workplace that's already in place there and try and figure out how we can integrate and leverage the existing ecosystem that everybody's working with, and trying to see where businesses have finally figured out how important Teams is to how their modern workplace, their modern digital workplace is working, and make that work for them.
It's funny, it's such a subtle thing, Todd, if I just interject.
Please.
Up until like a month or two ago, it used to be O365, right? And now you see Office as just another block in the house, and Microsoft has stopped using O365 because the platform in general is so much more than just your typical Office suite of tools, right? It's everything from Forms to Outlook. They're now calling it M365. So just kind of driving home the point even further, subtle but really effective and powerful, and kind of that, you know, your M365 really is the house as it exists today.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really important point there, and that we look at how it works. And so, you know, because we look at functions like Power BI, where you're talking about business intelligence, we're looking at things like Dynamics and CRM and everything else beyond all of this sort of things. But when we look at the digital office, we look at these things here and how Teams is kind of becoming that central hub for all of this, because it becomes how people are collaborating. People are able to do these meetings. We're right now using Teams to do this communication, where we're running this meeting off of this right here, and we're using it to do calls, we're doing it for doing chats, we're doing it for collaboration. So that's why when we talk about doing the digital office, why wouldn't we deliver our training here as well? Deliver it where your users are working. That's why we use Teams as a focal point for how we can deliver this training and deliver this information to your employees. So this is using the platform that they're already in and already inside of. Let me see here. Let me move forward. I want to move to the next slide here. So we talk about this, and how are you supporting a digital learning culture inside of your workplace? And how is that happening? Because if people are already leveraging and using Teams as a communication platform, and if they're already using that as where they are doing their work, then you need to take the learning culture and take it to where your workers are already at. And that's really where the focus needs to be. And so that's where we need to be able to deliver that. So when we talk about the top opportunities for L&D heading into 2021, you want to build that learning culture. And if you want to build a learning culture, you want to talk about the digital transformation of work and learning and bringing that together. And when you're doing that, it means you have to bring that learning culture and learning in the flow of where you're working. And that's where that merging together of Teams and your L&D come together. And that's where we think the opportunity lies, in that convergence of bringing your learning into Teams and bringing that together. So let's take a look at what that looks like in the environment there. So learning as a team. So let's look at how LMS365 looks within here. So you look at any learning platform in any LMS where you're talking about a learning management system that's going to deliver the training and the necessary training to your employees. You'll see that you have learning paths, you have the opportunity to have different types of learning delivered to your employees. And here inside of this, you see that we were able to embed it inside of a Teams environment. You see that we've got the Power Panel here. You've got the LMS365 embedded as an actual channel within your Teams here, which is a usable function, and it's great. You've got a selection here of your courses that are available, and all of this is embedded. Like any LMS will have a selection of courses and channels that you'll be able to select from. You can also take a look, if you move forward in here, and take a look at your own individual course catalog of these are classes that you're selected for, that are selected for you, that you're going to need to be able to take. Now, all of these features are like any other LMS. Sure, they're surfaced within Teams. They're available for you here. You can take a look at it and be able to find the courses and things like any LMS would be able to provide for you. But those are again the features and functions that you would expect to find in any LMS platform. We also bring in, again, talking about the features and functionalities of the entire Microsoft 365 ecosystem. You have the Power BI analytics. So you have the entire power of the business intelligence features that Microsoft brings into its suite of services and solutions, and able to integrate that in and bring it into the Teams Power Panel and bring it into your workers so that they have an opportunity to see it here. But then the difference maker, and where you're really going to see something coming up and being different, where you're going to actually make the learning socialized, is that when you can bring in the interpersonal collaboration, where you're able to actually show what it looks like, where you can start talking about, I'm in my learning pathway here. I'm actually in the course, and I can start chatting with my other workers, and I can start sharing that team conversation here, so I can discuss the learning paths. And now I'm talking with other people in my teams and in my groups over here and discussing the training. Or the next step, where I can come in and I can talk about being able to pin a particular training, and we're going to actually show a demonstration of how this works, to a conversation and share that with other people on my team or in my group, and say, hey, this is an interesting training, and this is something I think our team needs to learn more about. And so I want to be able to share that with you, and being able to have the platform within Teams so that I can literally find a training that's relevant and important to my team and share it with my team, because I'm using the platform here and being able to bring that into the group. So let's take a minute here and be able to turn this on. I'm going to try and get this started here, and let's take a look and see in action exactly how we can leverage this platform within Teams and get a live action demonstration of exactly how the LMS 365 platform within Teams works, and what the difference is when you take social learning and integrate it with the Teams platform.
I'm VP of Product for LMS 365. In this video, I want to walk through some of the business scenarios and value adds that we see that LMS 365 and Microsoft can bring to customers. Because we're seeing a lot more usage of Teams, not only for calls and meetings and online chats, but also for general collaboration. We're very excited about showcasing some of the business scenarios and capabilities that we see is very useful for customers using LMS 365 inside Teams. So let's dive right in. Here I have one of my test users, Celine here, and she's in a team. Celine don't have any specific role regarding to learning. She's an everyday user in a learning context. But what's very powerful with LMS 365 for Teams is that if she wants to recommend some training directly into the context of the team she's working in, she can just go to the team where she's managing in a channel where it makes sense, hit the plus button up here, select the LMS 365 app. Let's give the training a name. And she can quickly go in here and just type to search for a specific training that she might want to add directly to the Teams context. So hitting save will basically just bring this training directly into that Teams channel. This is extremely powerful because it means that not only can she bring learning into the context of what the team is already working on, but also because a lot of the effort that we've spent over the years on making sure that we can target the right training to the right people is now made a lot easier by everybody in an organization being able to take a training and recommend it to other learners in their organization. I have another training here, which I'll use to showcase something. So let's just dive into this training. As you can see, it will start the player directly inside here. I'll just actually expand it to get some more room to do my training. Now you can see that my user has not passed this, but I can actually also open up the social collaboration panel inside Teams, and I can bring in some of my colleagues to help me or ask about the training or even comment on it. So I could say, maybe let me pick Jack. Could you provide some tips for the assessment for the training or something like that? So that basically brings it right into the context of this specific learning. So adding this social element can bring a lot of benefit to the learning experience, and adding this collaboration around the training itself. Now, another option that I think is really interesting is the ability to, when I'm in a chat or in a Teams channel, I can use LMS365 to quickly share and pin a specific training to one of my colleagues. So let's say I basically want to show Peter, let me just mention my colleague Peter here, which is not working. This is a chat, sorry. I'll pick Peter Parker, say I want to say, hi Peter, this is the OneNote training I was talking about lunch, for example. And I can just hit the LMS365 icon down here at the toolbar. And then again, I can do the same thing as I did before, just searching for the training that I have available here. And pin this directly, and then I can quickly send this off to Peter. So a very easy way to actually just bring recommendations for a specific training directly to another colleague. Besides that, I can also use the general Teams search for searching for training. So I don't need to go to a course catalog to find specific training. I can just use the Teams search bar. I can mention the LMS365 app. And it'll actually ask, so what training are you looking for? Let me take the OneNote training again. I can see I can use this to search the whole training repository for all training that's available to me directly. I can find this one, and that means I can actually jump directly into this specific course and take it directly from Teams. So again, without having to go to the catalog first and do a search there, it's right at my fingertips when I'm using Teams. So finally, I can also, as you can see, this actually dropped me into the Teams app, and I can pin the Teams app directly into to it here as well. So if I have the Teams app pinned, I can go to this, I can click the app right over here, and I can actually also get to my dashboard directly. So here I'm able to actually see all of the training that I have ongoing or that I'm planning to take. If some of my manager have enrolled me into something or I started something, and I can even go back and see past trainings that I've done. I can look through the transcript of everything. So everything you know from the training dashboard, just available right inside Teams. And finally, one other option is to showcase some of the capabilities. Some users prefer to use point and click when they're navigating applications, but there are an increasing number of users who would rather engage with a chatbot, and this is something we have in LMS365 for Teams as well. So I can basically go to the chat panel, I can say hi to get the bot started. This will just bring up an interaction with it. It was very open, so it'll give me a couple of options for what I can do, what it can help me with. So you can see it allows me to show my training. That's basically a chatbot experience of the training dashboard. So that will show me all of my relevant training, or it can help me find any training from a given catalog. So I can say I want to select this catalog if I have multiple catalogs, and it'll give me a list of all of the training that's already available inside. So I can use this too. Let me just show, I only want to show the e-learning training in all categories. So show me the selected training. So this ability to use a chatbot to do some of the exact same things I could do using point and click interfaces is also something that is very relevant for some users. Let me just pick one of the training just to sort of fulfill the entire role. So these are some of the general for learners, some of the very relevant scenarios that we see, and also a little bit the order of importance that we see them in. But this is just from our experience. If I switch gear for a second and say that if I'm actually, if I have a more advanced role than just being a learner in the organization, maybe I manage a catalog or I'm keeping track of learning in the entire organization, I can actually also pin some of the LMS interfaces and Power BI directly into Teams. And for this, because Celine has a learner role, I'll switch over to another user here, which is Fleming, who is actually part of this L&D team. And I can inside I've actually pinned a direct link into managing the training. So in this case, you can see I actually have pinned the admin center in here. Here you get a sort of it's a framed experience, but I actually have access to it directly inside. And again, I can maximize it to get more use out of my approach in here. So you can see this is the user interface that you know, but it can, for some, it can actually make a lot of benefit to add that directly as a tab inside Teams as well. And similar, I've also actually added our training inside. So this is one of the Power BI reports that is produced and connects to LMS365. So instead of having to go to Power BI or embed it inside a web part, in this case, I've just added a Power BI tab to add some of our reports created by Power BI directly inside Teams. This was meant to be a quick overview of some of the business scenarios where we believe that learners and organizations can benefit from using LMS 365 inside Microsoft Teams. I hope this was useful for you. Thank you.
Okay, so just real quick, I'm going to hand this back over to John and explain that was very fast and a very quick look over theirs. But just kind of the closing point I want to leave with that is that this is an incredibly powerful platform, LMS 365's learning platform. And then to combine an incredibly powerful LMS with all of the features and the ecosystem of the Microsoft 365 platform and its integration with Teams, it brings social learning to a different level, and it brings the learning to where your employees are. And we'd love to be able to share with you more of what it can do, and can take a much longer, slower walkthrough with you. And I'd like to show you now and let John show you exactly how LiveTiles can bring even more power to the Teams environment. So with that, John, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Yeah, Todd, thanks. That was really great, right? It just showcasing the capability for, all of the professional learnings that organizations sometimes struggle to make available to its resources. Suddenly they're accessible, available, extensible across their Team's environment is just wow, right? Pretty incredible stuff that you guys have done there. But learning's really just kind of like we showed up above. Learning's just obviously one prong of what your Team's users and employees, or in some cases students, have to go through on a day-to-day basis. So what about, how do we make Teams even more effective? For individuals that are in Teams all day, there are a ton of other resources and apps that individuals typically have to utilize throughout their day-to-day. And this is something we see quite a bit at LiveTiles that we help our customers overcome, something known as app overload, right? So there have been a few different independent studies out there that showing well over 70% of daily business users switch between 30 to 40 different apps throughout a given day. And a lot of the time, the time between app switches range from anywhere from a few seconds to every couple of minutes, whether that's Outlook back to a Word document, over to a PowerPoint, flip over to a website to get into your HRIS. You lose focus, right? It's really hard when you're trying to remember, where do I go to do this? What tools am I supposed to use? And so, whether that be internal comms, finding fellow employees that have an expertise, general news, upcoming events, so on and so forth, or whether it's your workday essentials like logging into your HRIS system to log a time off request, or CRM to update a sales opportunity, so on and so forth, right? The list just goes on and on of all the different items that a typical information consumer, a general business user would have to do kind of in the day of a life of a user. So can we make teams even more effective? And at LiveTiles, that's exactly what we've aimed to do, is really turn teams into a true productivity hub where users are able to have their critical business applications across their disparate work environment in a single location. And I think the best way is I will actually walk you through kind of a live demonstration of this. So at LiveTiles, we offer a solution called Everywhere. And Everywhere is really meant to be just that, kind of that omnipresent access to your critical applications, whether it be on your desktop or even mobile within the Teams app, you have access. And the Everywhere panel is a completely configurable item, set of items where you can drop in whatever is important to your user base, but it can be targeted and the information can be focused so that users have the appropriate access to the appropriate apps that they need to do their day-to-day. So, you know, starting right out from a personalized dashboard, an app switcher, if you will, that can be rolled up into different categories. So, you know, think about this in an intranet context. So being able to create a news post, create a policy, and having this extensible right into your SharePoint environment where these are SharePoint news posts. So you're not necessarily jumping back to your web browser to get into SharePoint to use a news template to post corporate news. Instead, you can do it straight from the Everywhere panel or links to other third-party corporate applications. These are just quick punch outs. But with the open API structure on the back end and the webhooks available, we can do much more than just point you to the application. We can actually integrate the information back and forth between the systems. So for example, leveraging a Microsoft form to maybe push ticket data into Zendesk or push an opportunity, a lead into Salesforce or file an expense into Expensify. All of those become possible. And then some personalized information, right? Connecting into OneDrive so that users have dedicated access to the recent documents or policies and procedures. And as I move across, again, this can be configured to whatever you want it to be. Now, some of these web parts that you're seeing in here are items that come with the Everywhere panel. So kind of a quick social news feed. So being able to, as a user, make the decision on different channels that they want to subscribe to. And my screen's gone blank on me there, but no problem, we'll bring it back. So you can see here that the channels, I've got some that are corporate mandated that I have to receive access to, while other channels give me the option of opting in or out as I see fit. So maybe I only care about sales information and marketing from our London and New York office. I can make that selection, save my subscription, and then that's all I'm going to see. So while I do see my everyone, my news posts have now been reduced to just the sales and marketing. And as I go in, you can see all of the aspects you would want to see within kind of a quick hit news post, the social commentary, the liking, the hyperlinks out. So that way users are really kind of having that great experience, not having to navigate around, find a link, paste it into a web browser. And then marking it in such a way that flags that it's red. So that way I can filter this out. But it's just not for content consumers. Content creators really have an easy way to create these posts. So being able to dictate, I have a news post, or maybe a link to a YouTube or a Vimeo or a stream video. Declaring what channel I want to publish this into. That's everyone it says. And then a very simple but very powerful editor to be able to get this news out. So a heading, a little blurb, message, I can put an image in, and then I can declare when I want this article to show up and when I want it to stop appearing. So a very quick and easy way to create news posts and inform your users of what's going on. One other item that comes along with our platform is this workspaces module, and this has been kind of a heaven sent for many Teams users, because the search bar navigation that comes with Teams, it's pretty good, but it's pretty broad, right? So how do you set up Teams in such a way that they can effectively be identified? Right, so whether it be a development team, a social team, a marketing team, being able to set a filter, decide, I want to filter on team purpose or on business unit, and then being able to set these filters accordingly, I can very quickly and very easily locate the teams. And all of this is done with metadata that is set up in a provisioning engine that enforces certain data to be captured. Teams just aren't spun up without the appropriate metadata. Instead, they're kind of enforced that if you want to create a new team, we have to collect a configurable set of metadata, so that way these things become findable. And just, again, moving along, really, it's really about the extensibility. OneDrive Alerts, right? And here you can see some of that open API connection through the webhooks. So being able to pull notices out of environments like Workday, SAP, ServiceNow, so that way you're not relying on users downloading these mobile apps. Instead, they can just have the One Teams app and receive alerts when they have these new notices come in. Todd, you showed this in your LMS 365 demo. We expand upon that. So maybe you have dedicated, right, like a chief learning officer. They could have a targeted dashboard that basically is the same Power BI dashboard that's accessible while you're in the learning the LMS 365 platform. But other individuals, such as like HR managers, maybe they need a dedicated Power BI dashboard and they don't want to necessarily go and flip over to the Power BI app. Well, we can embed that capability, right? And these, just like on your side, fully functional Power BI dashboards that can be targeted, again, reducing that app overload and driving users to the right place. And, I just expand out a little bit on that, basically anything in the M365 environment can be dropped in, it can be extended, it can be leveraged, it can be surfaced to your users. So that way everybody knows what they should be working on and have the apps to do their job. Now, one last thing I will hit is that I mentioned that while this is configurable to your liking, it can also be targeted. Well, the targeting is only as good as the individual's information within your organization. And along with Everywhere, we offer a product called Directory. And Directory is really a solution that is that conduit between the end user information you as an organization need to direct the information back to the users effectively. Typically, this is an IT task. Spreadsheets, go out, collect information, do some sort of mass import into your Azure Active Directory, and then probably rinse and repeat that cycle every 3, 6, 12 months, hopefully. With our directory product, we're able to scan your Active Directory, set up the business rules and validations that are required, such as which fields are visible, which fields are editable, and which fields have certain validation rules, such as drop down, a normalizing drop down, so department stays clean, not 13 different versions of IT or HR show up in there, or even management level approval, so that when people change critical pieces of information, such as a job title, let's say Cassie got a promotion, I can go in, effectively modify my job title, but that will be sent to an approval path to be reviewed, so that I'm not just saying, hey, I've become the CEO today, for example. So along with this, it'll all measure and drive to whatever the organization decides is 100% complete profile. And what this ultimately allows is two different things. A, the targeting of the content. You now have confirmation that you've collected the attributes and that they're accurate. But B, kind of the other net outcome is you've now allowed your users in a digital workplace to connect with one another through the directory tool. So being able to capture information about their certifications and expertise, we can drop those filters in and find the individuals that we're looking for very quickly and very easily. And it even creates an automatic org structure after the fact. So if you needed to go to, in this case, Alicia's boss, we know it's Yaka, and we can ask Yaka, hey, can I borrow Alicia for a couple days? She's an expert in Workday. And so being able to draw that connection and, you know, let people connect with people, but also using Teams as that hub to really bring your apps together across your digital workplace. So, you know, LiveTiles everywhere, and our directory product, which falls under our LiveTiles Quantum. The way we look at this, Todd, we're going to steal your graphic here, is LiveTiles aims to be kind of that front door into the M365 and other application ecosystem, right? We really want to be the hub where you can walk in the door and have access to everything you need without having to flip around between multiple different apps. So I know we're approaching the end.
Yeah.
You've got some questions out there that have been asked.
I did see one come in that was a Teams-based question that was actually kind of for both of us here. This came from Bradley. It was a question about Teams, for using Teams for onboarding. This was one, just a general Teams question about onboarding new employees month over month. 2 channels, a room 1 and a room 2 for facilitators to manage larger groups, break into groups, half in room 1, half in room 2. Is there a way to reset the chats in each room and get each channel prepared for the next group of hires so that it's sterile for the next group of hires? So kind of outside of the LMS365 or even outside of the LiveTiles, but because we do live in the Teams universe all the time, I can actually answer that question. And the answer is that when you set up permissions for certain channel admins, that they can actually reset chats in certain rooms under certain circumstances. So that can be done, Bradley. So the quick answer to that one is all things are possible. Well, not all things, but in that particular case, that is possible.
What does Microsoft call it? No cliffs approach, right? You can there's right. Nothing you can't do with their technology.
Right.
Yeah, I ran into that last week too. The definite I've seen those training sessions that occur, the meetings that occur in the context of a channel. Those channels can have different tabs for different breakout rooms, and those rooms can initiate their own chat sessions. So that, in conjunction with what Todd was saying about resetting the chat history as people are assigned into those rooms, absolutely possible. For onboarding, that's actually one of the use cases where our Everywhere product has been used, is as people are brought in, you know, maybe the first widget is welcome to company X, right? And you click on it and it's got a list of documents, right? Onboarding documents. So step 1, do this, step 2, do this. And in reality, it could actually take on something. I know this is a little bit different, but it could take on something that looks like this, where, hey, welcome to your first day. Here are the 9 things you have to do, and this says, fill out your W-4, W-2, make sure your I-9 submitted, and all of these could have hyperlinks to those documents. So absolutely, this is a great use case for everywhere, HR onboarding for sure.
Yeah. Another question that I get asked and brought up a lot of times when they talk about bringing the LMS into Teams is one of the key functionalities of an LMS is being able to track trainings that are completed. And by bringing it into Teams, can that training be tracked? And the functionality of bringing the training into Teams, creating that social element of it, we track all of the trainings, and we provide some fairly robust tools for tracking those trainings, both for the individual, for teams, and also for Microsoft Groups. So again, when we go back to that house graphic that we used, that John and the LiveTiles teams have used there, right? Perfect. Thank you for bringing that up. You'll see again there at that foundation there, you see that the Azure is the foundation for everything in there. And so when we talk about looking at that Azure foundation, that means that we're writing everything off of that and that Azure tenant there. So all of that information is tracked off of that. So whether you're consuming the training in Teams or you're consuming it in SharePoint, everything is going to be written back and is going to be tracked there. The LMS does keep track of training progress, and that's really about the only thing that doesn't live on your tenant there. But regardless of where that training is consumed, whether it's in Teams or it's in SharePoint, it's going to be tracked, and we're going to keep track of that. And further to that, the Power BI integration that we can bring into Teams, where you're going to be able to again, we'll bring the information to where your workers are, and we can show you exactly how to bring that data there to where you can consume where your workers are. That also can be brought to wherever you need to see it and wherever you need to consume it there. And those are features, we do have some of that Power BI integration that's available out of the box. And then we have more robust features depending on what your needs are of the organization that we can help you customize depending on what you need from it there, and can be brought to fore for you there. But that question of where you consume it's not going to affect how the ability to track and monitor your trainings and monitor your individual employees.
Todd, just stream of consciousness. Once they complete one of those trainings, makes total sense. They go into the LiveTiles directory product and mark that they've completed a certain certification right on their profile and make them findable across their org. Yeah.
100%. That's why we're doing this together, John. That's exactly the point. I love it. I love it when a plan comes together, right?
Absolutely.
100%.
So we've got, I think, maybe time for one more quick question. If there's anything else, or was that it? Just those two that came in? Okay.
I think that may be it.
That's it. All right. Well, everybody, we thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to unleash the full potential, you can definitely reach out to the LMS365 team at the website there. There's Todd's personal email address if you want to get in touch with him. On the LiveTiles side, if you're looking to enhance your digital workplace and create a productivity hub right in Teams, my information available. Feel free to reach out to Todd and or I, and we'd be happy to go a bit deeper into either one of the topics or both. So we will be sending out a recording as well as these links separately. So if you're frivolously writing these down, don't worry, they will be sent out. So Todd, thanks for your time.
John, thank you. I appreciate you inviting us to be part of this today. This was a fantastic experience. We really appreciate it.
All right. Same here, Todd. As always, a pleasure. And everybody, you have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care.